Hello, as we begin, I think, our 14th week in First John, and we are on the home stretch. And so we're going to do verses 3 through probably 7, I think, this week. So let's go ahead and begin. See if you can translate this. Here is my translation. And every spirit that does not confess Jesus is not from God. And this is the spirit of Antichrist, which you have heard of the Antichrist, that you have heard is which you have heard that it is coming, and now is already in the world. Now, this is not talking about some individual figure at the end of time. The Antichrist here is not the specific person Antichrist, but the person who is an Antichrist. Because remember, many Antichrists have come into the world. And of course, if the Antichrist, spirit of the Antichrist was in the world then man, it's been 2,000 years. You understand, First John simply doesn't play out like kind of the popular Darby Antichrist thing. It just doesn't. That's not what Antichrist means in First John. But the spirit of Antichrist is in the world. It's a spirit that doesn't confess that Jesus has come from God. Yesterday we were saying every spirit that confesses that Jesus come in the flesh has come from God. So he's actually thinking about Gnostics again here specifically. I think there's an interesting possible inference here, and that is that he's talking about people who are in some connection with the church. That is to say, he's not necessarily speaking about complete pagans out there in some Rome or something like that. He seems to be thinking about people, maybe Jews, maybe within Judaism even. We might even go that far. Since John is a Jew, that he may be thinking about forces within Judaism. And so if we extrapolate this to today, could it be that there are forces in the church that are antichrist, that are against Christ? Of course, it could happen. And that would be those who deny that Jesus has come from God. Well, I'll let you ponder that. Let's keep going. So to break the translation down, and every spirit, okay, that's the subject. Every spirit is the core root subject. And then we have a relative clause here. Every spirit, what spirit are you talking about? Well, the spirit that does not confess Jesus, this is the right here. This is the relative clause. Every spirit that does not confess Jesus. That's the relative clause, relative pronoun, and pneuma is the subject. Okay, and the main verb of this first sentence is spirit is. That's the core. Spirit, subject, is, verb. Is not, that's an adverb telling us about is. We could diagram it. I've done some Greek sentence diagramming. So every spirit that does not confess Jesus is not from God. Okay, and from God goes with is. So there's a break right here in terms of the what goes where. You might put parentheses around the relative clause so that you can see that's its own little mini unit. So every spirit is not from God. Which spirit do you have in mind? Every spirit that does not confess Jesus is not from God. And this, that spirit, is the of the Antichrist. Now, there's a the with a genitive. What's up with that? Well, this is called, as we'll see on the next page, the substantive use of a genitive phrase. So to Antichristou is a genitive phrase, of the Antichrist. And then the of the Antichrist, we don't know what the substance of this the is. The what of the Antichrist? Well, from the context, it's quite clear. It's the spirit of the Antichrist. And to is neuter, like pneuma. Pneuma is a ma noun, which, unlike my ma, is neuter. So the spirit, it's neuter, and it's nominative singular. And in this context here is the spirit of the Antichrist. Okay, this is the spirit of the Antichrist, which you have heard. Another relative clause here. So it's telling us about spirit again. The spirit which, the spirit that you have heard. You've heard that it is coming. Here's a noun clause within the relative clause. Again, if I could diagram it, it would be marvelous to behold, but I'm not going to. The spirit of the Antichrist, which you have heard that it is coming, and is now already in the world. So that's all. This is all the relative clause here, all the way to the end, because this is the spirit of Antichrist. What spirit? Why, the spirit that you've heard that is coming and is now in the world. So all of this is relating something. It's relative clause is relating something about the spirit of the Antichrist. Okay, let's go on to grammar. So what is of interest in this? I told you subject, verb. So I've told you relative clause, relative pronoun here, relative clause. Homologe is the present active indicative third singular of homologeo. Nothing to see there. Okay, this is some interesting things to parse. Another relative pronoun, another relative clause, as I've said, a noun clause with the hoti. But can you parse ake koete? We saw this related form in the very first verse of 1 John. You can see there's kind of a weird reduplication. It's irregular. It's from akuo, and it's perfect. I've just memorized it, okay? Te is second person plural, probably active. The vowel is not fried. It's not lengthened, so I'm going to go with indicative. So we have, oh, okay, this is the substantive use of a genitive phrase. I've already told you that. Then for the parsing, we have a perfect, we have an active, we have an indicative, we have a second plural from akuo. You have heard that it's coming, and you've heard, and that hearing has stayed with you, and even now it is already in the world. Okay. So we end up with pronunciation. Can you pronounce up to the colon? Here's my attempt. Kai pan panuma, ho me homologe, ton yesun, ek tu theu, uk estin. Kai tuto estin, and I'm going to do that as one word. Notice there are two accents on tuto. The reason why there are two accents is because estin is a enclitic, which means it doesn't like to have an accent. I'm not doing the accent. And so in a case like this, it gets tuto to pick up the accent for us. So these two are pronounced almost like one word. To, tu, antichristu, ho, ake koete, hoti, erkatai, kai nun, en to cosmo, estin, ade. Okay, so let me try to read it at normal speed. Kai pan panuma, ho me homologe ton yesun, ek tu theu ukestin, kai tuto estin to tu antichristu, ho ake koete, hoti erkatai, kai nun ento cosmo estin ade. Well, I tried. This has been 1 John 4:3 in Greek.